They boarded the plane just like any of us would. Smiles exchanged. Seatbelts clicked. Messages sent. A normal morning. A routine flight. But just minutes after takeoff, something went terribly wrong. The nose dipped. Alarms blared. And then silence. 2 planes. 346 people. Gone in seconds. What the world thought were tragic accidents turned out to be something far more chilling. A billion-dollar secret buried beneath corporate profits, courtroom deals, and broken families. And at the center of it all was a name we were told we could trust. Boeing. This isn't just a story of a deadly design flaw. It's about cover-ups, courtroom betrayal, and families who refuse to stay silent. It's about a company that got too powerful to question, and a justice system that might let them walk away again. But just when it seemed the case was closed, a mysterious new document surfaced in court. One that could change everything. Before we dive in, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel for more real-life stories that shake the world. And share this video if you believe truth deserves a voice. Because what you're about to hear might just be the most devastating cover-up in aviation history. Let's begin. The first sign that something was terribly wrong came not from a plane crash, but from silence. On October 29, 2018, just 13 minutes after takeoff, Lion Air Flight 610 vanished from radar and plunged into the Java Sea. Aboard were 189 souls, many of whom had kissed their families goodbye only minutes before. They had no idea they were boarding a flying coffin. Investigators at first scrambled for explanations. Pilot error, poor maintenance, a fluke. But those theories dissolved when, less than 5 months later, another Boeing 737 MAX, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302, crashed into the ground just 6 minutes after takeoff. This time, 157 people died. The total death toll, 346 lives. Parents, children, couples, tourists, business people, students, dreams and futures reduced to flaming metal and debris. What linked them? A brand new airplane design hailed as Boeing's crown jewel, the 737 MAX. What followed wasn't just a technical investigation. It was the unraveling of one of the most catastrophic corporate crimes in aviation history. And at the center of it all, hidden in technical jargon and corporate presentations, was a deadly secret. Boeing knew. They knew about the Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System, MCAS, the little-known software added to prevent stalling in the redesigned aircraft. They knew it could trigger on faulty data. They knew it could override pilots. And they knew they never fully disclosed its existence to the FAA or to the pilots flying it. Behind closed doors, engineers had warned of potential flaws. Internal emails would later reveal a culture of cost-cutting, rushed timelines, and pressure to beat Airbus in competitive race for fuel-efficient jets. Designed by clowns, supervised by monkeys, one Boeing employee wrote in 2016, well before the first crash. But instead of halting the rollout, Boeing chose another route, one that cost lives. The FAA, depending on Boeing for self-certification, never flagged MCAS as a critical system. Training manuals were edited. Simulators weren't required. Pilots had no idea what they were dealing with until it was too late. And when the crashes happened, Boeing circled the wagons. Public statements deflected blame. Internal briefings minimized the risk. They leaned on their decades-long reputation as an aviation titan to weather the storm. But the storm wasn't going away. Victims' families mobilized. They demanded answers and justice. They weren't interested in settlements or PR statements. They wanted names, accountability, and courtrooms. Many flew to Washington, D.C., clutching photos of lost children, spouses, and siblings. They testified before Congress, their voices cracking under the weight of loss. The world listened, but Boeing's boardroom remained mostly silent. Then, In January 2021, the U.S. Department of Justice struck a non-prosecution agreement, NPA, with Boeing. The company paid $2.5 billion in fines, compensation, and compliance improvements. But no executives were charged. The deal was made quietly, behind closed doors. It was as if 346 lives were reduced to a line item on a balance sheet, but the families weren't done. By 2023, cracks were reappearing, not just in public trust, but in the aircraft themselves. On January 5, 2024, an Alaska Airlines Boeing 737 MAX 9 suffered a mid-air door panel blowout. The plane landed safely, but passengers were shaken. The FAA grounded a portion of the MAX fleet for inspection. Then new concerns emerged: engine smoke incidents linked to bird strikes, cabin pressurization problems, faulty sensors, issues that felt eerily familiar. And so, the Department of Justice reopened its investigation. In March 2025, the DOJ officially charged Boeing with conspiracy to defraud the FAA. Families were finally going to get their day in court. The courtroom will become their battlefield. But in late May, a twist came that none of them saw coming. The DOJ quietly struck another deal with Boeing, a new non-prosecution agreement. In this one, Boeing would plead guilty, pay $243.6 million in criminal fines, allocate another $444.5 million to a victim compensation fund, and promise $455 million for safety and compliance programs. In total, $1.1 billion. A tidy resolution. To the government, it was closure. To the families, it was betrayal. Paul and George, who lost his wife, 3 children, and mother-in-law in the Ethiopian Airlines crash, was one of the first to speak out. "It's blood money," he told reporters. "They're letting Boeing buy their way out of justice again." On June 18, 2025, just 5 days before the trial was scheduled to begin, victims' families filed a formal motion urging Judge Reed O'Connor to reject the plea deal. They cited the judge's own previous words, calling this case the deadliest corporate crime in U.S. history. The motion didn't mince words. It argued that the deal let Boeing escape true accountability, that it avoided exposing the full truth in court, that no executive, no matter how complicit, would face prison, that the courtroom would remain closed, silenced, and locked. Yet Boeing remained poised, untouched. No CEO had resigned. No top executive had been arrested. The company's stock had rebounded. Orders continued to flow in. And despite additional safety warnings from a National Transportation Safety Board in June 2025, the 737 MAX continued flying in skies across the world. The victims' relatives were left not just with grief, but with haunting questions. Why was Boeing allowed to self-certify safety features that later kill hundreds? Why did the DOJ agree to a plea deal just days before trial? Why were the lives of 346 people negotiated away like a business transaction? And what message does this send to every other corporation willing to roll the dice with human life? The suspense wasn't just in the court documents or safety audits. It was in the waiting. As of now, Judge O'Connor has not decided whether to approve the deal. Families are on edge, journalists are circling, and Boeing executives are preparing statements, legal teams, and possibly another round of apologies. But behind all the legal language, the press releases, and the financial terms, there's something deeper. It's the voice of a mother in Ethiopia who still sets the dinner table for a daughter who'll never return. It's a father in Indonesia who scrolls through his son's last text message over and over. It's a child who still asks when mommy's plane is coming home. And it's the echo of 346 voices, buried in wreckage, shouting for a truth that's still being bargained away. The courtroom is ready. The judge is watching. And the world is waiting. But then, just as families thought the worst was over, another report leaks. An internal whistleblower at Boeing, still anonymous, has submitted a sealed affidavit to the court. Allegedly, it details a second undocumented software tweak to the MAX system, one that wasn't disclosed in the plea deal, one that investigators, lawyers, and regulators never saw coming, one that might explain anomalies in aircraft behavior after the 2024 Alaska incident. The judge has not yet opened the affidavit. If it's real, this story isn't over. It's just beginning.